The House of the Dragon season finale is finally upon us. I love the idea of at the end of episode 8, the king dies, and then episode 9 we spend with the greens, then episode 10 we spend with the blacks. And so each episode we get to really focus in on one side of this war. It's a really fun and interesting way to kind of focus each episode, but also I can't have been the only one when at the end of the episode, when Aemon rocks up and you see he's just there at the Baratheon Council, and he's just standing there with his eye patch looking sexy as hell, and you're like, ho ho ho, I thought it was an all blacks epi. I mean, yeah, Otto Hightower, he was there, but he barely counts. He's not sexy and charismatic. I mean, I can't have been the only one that once they saw Aemon was going to be in this episode and they saw him there in the Baratheon Council, they're just like, okay, I gotta pause this show for 5 to 10 minutes to, what's the word I'm looking for? Appreciate his presence in the episode. Yeah, let's go with that wording. So this episode and the season ends with our first Dance of the Dragons. And it turns out Stannis was kind of right, and Shireen was kind of wrong. Not so much a dance, more of a horrific massacre of giant beasts eating little beasts, and just some really horrific stuff just all around. And I really liked how it was kind of like an accident, although I have to wonder, Aemon, you've got your big giant old grandpa dragon that's about 70,000 billion times bigger than the little baby dragon, and then little baby strong on top of this dragon, and you're chasing him through a storm. What did you expect was going to happen? Like, how did you think it was going to end up without you eating and murdering the dragon 1,700,000 million times smaller than your giant dragon? It's like if I'm trying to like catch a fly in my room by like smashing it with my fist, and then when I hit it with my fist and it's dead, I go, oh my god, I can't believe it died. I really thought it would just kind of like walk off the injuries and go home without an eye. I don't know what you were thinking, Aemon. I mean, I'm totally on your side because oh my god, the visual alone. Mr. Anime character, Aemon, I love you. I love you, sweet one-eyed baby, but what were you thinking? Why did you think it was going to end any other way? I mean, I'm happy because little baby Strong, he was uncharismatic and boring, and I don't know, for some reason, do you guys get the vibe that like him and his brother were like cosplaying as Two-Face this episode? I mean, I love a psychotic criminal with a very distinctive visual flair, but theirs just felt a bit weird. Speaking of Strong Boy's cosplaying, the episode starts with the little Strong Boy, and he's all like, oh, I don't want to be king of Driftmark. I get on a boat and I throw up. Who cares about Driftmark? Who even owns Driftmark in Game of Thrones? If I don't remember a place or a location from Game of Thrones, in my mind, it's irrelevant and it doesn't matter. Little Boy Strong, I think you should fight this. Maybe you should get a Storm's End, or a Harrenhal, or a Winterfell. Or another example of a thing from Game of Thrones. But then old lady coulda, woulda, shoulda stopped the war, but I didn't for reasons. She rocks up and she's all like, Rhaenyra, they've taken the throne and you're not the queen, and Aegon, he's the king, and oh, it's a big catastrophe, and no one could have possibly stopped this happening. There wasn't a single person in sight who had any way to possibly stop this absolute atrocity from happening. Oh, yes, I barely escaped with my life. Rhaenyra, I'm lucky to be here alive. There was definitely not any Shrek 1 related incident that meant that maybe I could have stopped this war, but there's going to be a war. I'm as sad as anyone. I am not to blame for every single atrocity that will happen, including your son dying in 35 to 45 minutes time. That's not my fault. I mean, I could have killed the guy who killed him, you know, in cold blood. They were standing there helplessly. Like, he's a sexy, charismatic, kind of vicious, intense anime character. But he was like, oh, like his one eye was like it was a very scared eye, but I couldn't have done anything. But yeah, there's a war coming, and it's not my war. Who said it was my war? It's not my war. In case you couldn't tell, old lady coulda, shoulda, woulda stopped the war. Not my favorite character. I might go as far to say my least favorite character in the Game of Thrones universe. And yes, I am including TV show version of Euron. yeah, she's that bad in my eyes. Like, she's, oh boy. So Rhaenyra finds out that her dad is dead, and regardless of the fact that he looked like a walking corpse, she's still incredibly surprised. Daemon even goes as far to say, oh, they killed him, which I understand why you would think that, but he was so old and just, like, he didn't even have, half his face was gone, and Daemon's still like, it's poison, it's treachery. That guy should have died 20 years ago. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I understand why you would think that, but also the fact that he just kind of died of old age 20 years later than he should have already died, It just muddies the waters, but in a very fascinating, interesting way, I might add. But before she can do that whole morning thing and, you know, sadness and whatever, the baby is like, hey, I'm here. Time to give birth. And you're like, okay, wow, this baby is going to fit in the Game of Thrones universe. He has a theatrical kind of cinematic kind of flair to him, being birthed at this moment. And I was having a bit of fun. I'm like, I really like the idea that she's giving birth at this kind of moment of tragedy, and we get moments of the dragon being like, you know, the dragon's doing teeth thingies. And then all the fun and, you know, excitement and enjoyment of the show is completely destroyed by what I can only describe as the worst 8 minutes of cinematic television of all time. I never wanted to see so much dead baby on screen. I just don't think it was necessary. It feels gratuitous and gross and awful. Like, there are so many horrific close-ups, and I understand trying to kind of like put us in the position of Rhaenyra and like make us go, oh, the horror, the trauma, the heartbreak, the devastation. Other big horrible words, you know, to kind of emphasize the moment and situation. But for me, it really just felt gratuitous. It felt over the top. It felt really kind of like horribly like, it reminded me of like a kind of a torture porn thing where it's just like showing you this thing and being like, just look at a bloody dead baby in a close-up for way too long. And the scene kept going. Like, I felt like the moment was you're like, oh, she's giving birth and it's, you know, traumatic and intense. You know, childbirth it's a whole ordeal. But then the blood kind of gushes out. There's like that big shot of blood going. And that for me, like, that's enough for me to realize what is going to happen and what's going to transpire. And I kind of, you know, as an audience member, I have to presume everyone else is the same. You go, oh, I know what's happening now. And now you're suddenly in that moment of harrowing horror and terror and heartbreak. And you're already there. And then it just kept going. It just kept showing scenes. She wraps it up with some cloth, like a little horrific baby mummy. I actually felt so upset, I wanted to turn it off. Like, I was, like, not looking at the screen, and I felt, it kind of got so much for me that I felt disconnected, and suddenly I didn't feel like I was emotionally there in the scene anymore. I felt like they'd gone too far. I might be wrong in that. People might think, oh, no, you need to show the horror. You need to really hit hard with what you're trying to kind of show. And I have criticized the show in the past for not showing gory moments. Like, you have bloody old lady Targaryen shoulda, woulda, coulda stopped the war, and she explodes out of the keep. Somehow her dragon survived the concussion of smashing through brick walls, and it smashes up and it kills thousands of people, but we don't see any blood, we don't see any gore, we don't see any actual dead bodies. Just a lot of CGI dust everywhere, and you go, oh, I have to presume people died, because that would be insane if they didn't. But you don't see it. And I have criticized the show for not really showing too much, and sometimes you chop a head off here and there, you know, when Daemon did that. But for the most part, they've kind of shied away from that. And then for this to be easily the worst, most graphic scene in the series so far, I don't know, it just felt like a really odd choice, because I feel like just gush of blood. Your point's being made, and you can get her reaction, you get other characters' reactions. I plan on blacking out this sequence of events for the rest of my life. I'm just going to put it right back in the back of my brain somewhere, you know. I'm going to be like Sherlock. I'm going to get a big temple palace kind of situation where all my brain memories and whatevers go. You know, you've seen that episode of Sherlock, and you're like, wait, what? And I'm going to put it somewhere in the big mind palace of mine, and I'm going to like close the door, lock the key, and I'm going to grab the key and then like throw it in a big lake, and then it's going to sink down at the bottom of the lake, and then at the end of the lake, a big alligator or whatever's going to eat it. Crocodile, alligator. It depends on what kind of water is in the lake, I suppose. You know, if we want to be technically correct about this insane thing I've just said. So we have a big old coronation scene where they're all like, oh, hail Queen Rhaenyra, whatever her name is. And then we get one of the King's Guards from last episode, and maybe he was in an episode before that, but I don't really remember him. I think he was one of the twin guys, and he comes and he's like, I'm going to be an oath breaker, and I vow myself to you, Rhaenyra, you are the true queen. And I kind of was like, haha, okay. I feel like maybe this was, you know, like this was set up in a previous episode. Probably in the last episode where he was, you know, in it majorly, and they were doing a little, like, where's Aegon? It was like, where's Wally, but where's Aegon last episode? And they're running around King's Landing looking for Aegon. And I kind of feel like maybe there was a really great scene somewhere in there that I have forgotten, because that episode ended with old lady shoulda, woulda, coulda ended the war Targaryen, you know, did that scene. And I just forgot all the good scenes, because that scene was so bad. I can't remember the good scenes because it was so bad. So presumably there's a reason why he's become an Oathbreaker and he's not, on Team Green, but he's on Team Black, and he's all like, yes, you guys, I'm on Matt Smith's team. I don't know, maybe he's just a really big Doctor Who fan. I'm also a really big Doctor Who fan, and Matt Smith is my favourite Doctor Who. And I think that speaks volumes to the rest of his team, Team Black. Because I gotta be honest, guys, I'm Team Green all the way, baby. It's entirely because of Aemon. It's just Aemon. That eye patch, just, oh god, he's so hot and sexy and just cool and charismatic. He's like an anime character, but in live action, I'm a fan. I love that cheeky little furnace thingy they've got under the map room in Dragonstone. Like, they just put some fire underneath and it's like, it lights up all the map areas and the words and the castle drawings, and it's like, now it's all red and orange and cinematic and cool. It's very cool. Why could you not see the places and the locations and the names beforehand? Because my question would be, if you couldn't see it beforehand, what were you looking at? You'd look down at the map and be like, I can't see it. It's not clear. Is that Winterfell? Is that Dragonstone? I actually failed geology or geography. The one about maps. Whatever, shut up. I also didn't do well at school. I mean, you could probably tell from the way I talk. But it just felt like a big moment of being very cinematic, and like the shot, I was like, oh, that's so cool and awesome. And then I suddenly was like, why? Why? So we have a big old council meeting, and Daemon, Mr. Matt Smith, the ageless god of Targaryens, and he's all like, hey, maybe we should do this, this, and this. And Rhaenyra's is like, I don't want to do that. Listen, no wartime for us. No. I feel like you're just like saying that so we think you're like a good character. It reminded me of Alice at last episode where she's like, hey, so this thing happened and it's totally going to spark a war. Whoa, guys, you want to start a war because I said that thing that totally would only mean war? And it kind of feels a bit weird to kind of make them seem like the good guy in a situation. But hey, whatever, here we are. She's the good guy in this situation. But Daemon's speaking a lot of sense, I feel like. And I love a quote of the week! Quote of the week! It's a new fun segment I'm doing for the finale of a show that I won't do for 2 years. And now our watch begins for two years. I mean, I understand they want to take the time to make the show good, but just give me the show! Give me the show on my eyeballs! But yeah, quote of the week. I forgot the quote. Let me get my phone. Dreams didn't make us kings. Dragons did. Oh, Daemon is so evil at that point. He's like choking her, and I'm like, oh no, I'm not meant to like him. And I like want to like physically not like him in that moment. But that is such a great line. Don't make your character strangle another main character while saying that line. I just want to be able to appreciate and love that line. Like, he might have like stopped strangling her just before or just after or whatever, but it's like, it's all mixed up in that scene, which makes it really gross and ugly and very Game of Thronesy, which I understand. But I just want to be able to like replay that scene and just be like, oh yeah, not being like, oh yeah. But also I don't approve of the strangling. That's bad. So we have a big old council meeting, and Team Black, they're all like, we've got like 30 knights and 60 squires and whatever. You know, they say a bunch of numbers of men and people. And I'm like, why is this even a discussion? It's called the Dance of Dragons. Like, I know you don't know it's called that yet, but later we call it the Dance of Dragons. Stop talking about human beings and knights. Also, those numbers seemed horrendously low. Like, you cannot possibly win to just get to the dragons. And then they're like, oh, by the way, we've got like all the dragons. And I'm like, yeah, get to the dragons. I want to see some dragon on dragon action. Not in the sexual way, in the actually, you know what? Maybe in the sexual way too. Sorry, what? So we get another Dragonstone stairs sequence. The Targaryens, they're such posers. Like, he's like, where is the Queen Rhaenyra? Where's the Queen Rhaenyra? Otto Hightower says, and then she rides in on a dragon, the dragon lands, the dragon's all like, and then she just like walks up and's like, I'm not going to do anything with this dragon. No, but oh, you saw that dragon, right? Like, I could do something. Such a poser move. And then Matt Smith of House Targaryen is like, swords out, let's kill everybody, let's have a big sword fighty fight. And then Rhaenyra's like, no. I've actually spoken to George R. R. Martin, and he said for the show to like cover the books correctly, it needs to be 4 full seasons. So actually, we can't have a fight right now because we all need to survive for season 2, 3, and or 4, depending on, our arcs for the story. But no one can die right now, so no sword fight for us right now. So we finally get the reveal and revelation that old Papa Dreadlocks of the Driftmark, he didn't die. In whatever episode they said he died. He's not dead. And he's all like, what's going on? And she's like, well, I mean, people aren't calling me the queen of shoulda, woulda, coulda, stopped the war, but I didn't for reasons. And he's all like, what's been going on? And she's like, all our people have died. They've just all died. Your brother died. He's like, what? And my brother died. And she's like, hey, he just didn't read the room. And so the episode ends with Rhaenyra sending her 2 little strong boy sons. She's like, go off and do some errands with your dragons or whatever, because they're faster than ravens or whatever. I mean, to be fair though, as far as I recall, in episode 6 of season 7, it actually implied that ravens were very, very quick flyers. I mean, what are you telling me? The logic in that episode didn't make sense, and now this episode it's meant to make sense? I mean, which... I shouldn't have even made a joke. Even half making a joke and trying to do a thing, and then it reminded me of the lake sequence episode, and now I'm just angry. And what better way to cure my anger than thinking about the fact that Aemon is in this episode? Old Aemon is all like, I'm here, and there's a Baratheon here, and he's totally a Baratheon, and we're at Storm's End, and little baby strong boy or whatever, he's got a little baby strong dragon, and as soon as he rocked up, all the 3 dragons rock up, and they've got the dun 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 dun, that classic theme from Game of Thrones, the Daenerys dragon theme of we're about to do a cool dragon thing. It's like, oh, I just love that music. It's nostalgic, it's beautiful, and the dragons will fly off, but I remember thinking, oh, little baby strong, his dragon is like a little baby dragon. It fits for him. But as they were riding away, I'm like, he's got beef with Aemon, and Aemon's like, my boy, I love Aemon. And he's got the big dragon. I just want to see a scene of the big dragon just eating him and the dragon whole. There's nothing, you don't see any remnants. He just eats it whole. And then that sequence happens. 5 minutes later. It was crazy to me. I'm like, I'm some kind of fortune teller. I'm like a gypsy witch or something. It's a fantastic sequence. It's really fun. I love how Aemon takes his eye patch off and he's like, actually in the books I've got a sapphire eye. All the book nerds, they've told all their friends, actually he's meant to have a sapphire eye. And everyone's like, they'll probably reveal it at some point, maybe in a sex scene. They're like, take the eye patch off. I want to see the real you. And they take it off and they're like, oh, actually that's pretty hot. It's like a blue gem. And he's like, actually it's a sapphire. But no, he takes it off and goes, cut your eye out. And then the Baratheon's like, not under my roof. And I'm like, that's bad wording, Baratheon. Not under my roof. As soon as we leave the roof area of your castle, it's on. And it is on. And it's nice and wet and misty and smoky and just it's hard to see, but also that kind of works really well. It's all shrouded in smoke and darkness and rain. I can't really see the creatures, and I want to see the creatures, but then they pop out of the clouds, and I thought that was such a crazy, awesome moment to be they're flying so high they break above the storm, and then the horror happens. And it's just so brutal. There's no fight. And it's also Aemon doesn't mean to do it, even though I don't really understand what Aemon was trying to do by chasing with such a big dragon to such a little dragon. How would that end without one dragon eating the other dragon? But it was a really great sequence of events. And then I love that Rhaenyra's ends the episode and she's like, oh, I'm mad. There's probably going to be some kind of dance of dragons after this. Some kind of big war. And she looks at the camera oh, you're angry with me. And I'm like, no, I'm actually very happy. Because I'm Team Aemon. Did you see how sexy he was? Maybe try to be more sexy. Get an eye patch, maybe? I mean, I don't know what else to suggest, because it must be the eye patch, right? Or just the long, straight, thick edges. His demeanor. His demeanor is just... It does a lot for me. Thanks for watching, guys. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and comment below. I'd love to know what everyone thought of the season finale of Hot D.